It is very foggy. You should slow down and A. Turn on your emergency flashers. B. Turn your lights to their high beam setting. C. Turn your lights to their low beam setting. C. Turn your lights to their low beam setting. Use your low beams when driving in fog, snow, rain, or mist. Light from high beams will reflect off of precipitation, causing a glare and making it even more difficult to see. Some vehicles are equipped with fog lights that should be used in addition to low beam headlights. This sign means A. 4-lane traffic ahead. B. Divided highway ahead. C. 2-way traffic ahead. D. Intersection ahead. C. 2-way traffic ahead. This sign warns of 2-way traffic ahead. This sign tells you that A. No turns are allowed on the road. B. The road narrows ahead. C. There is a series of curves ahead. C. There is a series of curves ahead. Warning signs are usually yellow with black markings. They alert you to conditions that are immediately ahead. This sign warns drivers about an upcoming winding road. This sign means A. Trucks under 18,000 pounds. Allowed. B. Hill ahead. C. Truck stop ahead. D. No trucks allowed. B. Hill ahead. This sign warns that there is a steep hill ahead.
Want to ace your DMV test? Click on the link below and get your guaranteed cheat sheet.
When stopped for a traffic violation or at an equipment check, the driver must produce A. Proof of insurance. B. Their license. C. Proof of registration. D. All of the above. D. All of the above. When stopped for a traffic violation or at an equipment check, the driver is responsible for producing their license, proof of registration, and proof of insurance. Drivers are required to have all three of these documents in a vehicle when it is being driven. If the traffic light is red and you want to turn right, you can turn A. When the cross traffic has cleared. B. After you stop. C. Both of the above. C. Both of the above. Unless a posted sign prohibits it, you may turn right at a red light after coming to a complete stop. When turning on red, you must yield to other traffic, pedestrians, and bicyclists before proceeding. This sign means A. One-way traffic. B. Intersection ahead. C. Merging traffic from the right. C. Merging traffic from the right. Warning signs are usually yellow with black markings. They alert you to conditions that are immediately ahead. This sign tells drivers to prepare to allow traffic to safely merge from the right. A stop sign is shaped like a N. A. Rectangle. B. Square. C. Circle. D. Octagon. D. Octagon. An octagonal shape is used only for stop signs. All 8-sided signs tell drivers to come to a complete stop before proceeding. You may cross double solid yellow lines. A. To pass a slow-moving truck. B. To turn into a driveway. C. To pass another car. D. Under no conditions. B. To turn into a driveway. Double solid lines indicate that you may not pass or change lanes. You cannot cross the lines unless it is to turn left to enter or exit a highway, to turn into or from a driveway, or to make a U-turn where permitted. When parking your vehicle downhill on a two-way street. A. Turn your wheels to the right. B. Turn your wheels to the left. C. Keep your wheels pointed straight ahead. D. Leave your transmission in neutral. A. Turn your wheels to the right. When you park on a downward-facing slope, turn your wheels sharply toward the side of the road. This way, if your vehicle starts to roll downhill, it will roll away from traffic. As a pedestrian, you should A. Always insist on the right-of-way over a vehicle when using a crosswalk. B. Never enter a street or crosswalk when vehicles are approaching. C. Enter a crosswalk at any time because it is the vehicle driver's responsibility to stop. D. Use crosswalks only if they are convenient. B. Never enter a street or crosswalk when vehicles are approaching. Pedestrians should not enter a street or crosswalk when vehicles are approaching. Though pedestrians have the right of way in crosswalks, a vehicle approaching from a close distance may not have the time to stop before entering the crosswalk. To turn left from multilane, one-way streets and highways, you should start from A. The middle of the intersection. B. The right lane. C. The left lane. D. Any lane. C. The left lane. To turn left from multi-lane streets and highways, start from the left lane. To avoid collisions with vehicles in your blind spots, you should A. Quickly turn your head to see if your blind spot is clear before changing lanes. B. Adjust your rearview mirrors every few minutes. C. Honk your horn right before turning or changing lanes. D. None of the above. A. Quickly turn your head to see if your blind spot is clear before changing lanes. Before turning or changing lanes, turn your head and glance over your shoulder in the direction of your move to see if your blind spot is clear. Never rely on your mirrors alone. A flashing yellow light at an intersection means that you should A. Slow down and proceed with care. B. Continue normally through the intersection. C. Stop and proceed when a green light appears. D. Stop and proceed when the way is clear. A. Slow down and proceed with care. A flashing yellow light at an intersection means caution. If you approach such a light, slow down, look, and proceed with care. A U-turn is not permitted. A. In a parking lot. B. On or near any curve or hill. C. On a straight roadway with a clear view for 500 feet in both directions. B. On or near any curve or hill. You must never turn around while on or near any curve or hill. You may not be able to see oncoming traffic or pedestrians and may cause a collision. This sign means A. Heavy traffic ahead. B. Do not enter. C. Railroad crossing. D. Yield. B. Do not enter. This sign means that it is not safe for drivers to enter the indicated road or driveway from their current direction. If you come across one of these signs, you should immediately turn around and drive a different way. When approached by an emergency vehicle that is using its siren and/or flashing lights, a driver must immediately A. Pull to the right and stop. B. Pull to the right and slow down. C. Pull to the right and turn on their vehicle's four-way flashers. D. Stop and let the emergency vehicle pass. A. Pull to the right and stop. When you are approached by an emergency vehicle that is using its lights, sirens, and/or other warning devices, you must immediately drive to the right side of the road and stop. A telltale sign of a drunk driver is A. They are weaving between lanes. B. They are driving more slowly than the normal traffic flow. C. They are making quick and sudden stops. D. All of the above. D. All of the above. Telltale signs of drunk driving include speeding, weaving, driving more slowly than the normal traffic flow, making jerking motions, and making quick and sudden stops. If you are stopped and the officer suspects you have been drinking, you A. May not refuse the BAC test. B. May refuse the BAC test if you haven't been drinking. C. May refuse the BAC test if you think you will fail. A. May not refuse the BAC test. Wisconsin has an implied consent law, which means that you must comply if a police or traffic officer asks you to take an alcohol test. If weather or light conditions require you to have your lights on while driving, A. Use your parking lights. B. Use your high beams. C. Use your low beams. C. Use your low beams. Use your low beam headlights when driving in foggy, snowy, or rainy conditions. Light from high beam headlights will reflect back, causing glare and making it even more difficult to see ahead. The best way to avoid hydroplaning is to A. Keep your tires properly maintained. B. Slow down when roads are wet or slushy. C. Watch out for standing water or puddles. D. All of the above. D. All of the above. When roads are wet, cars take a longer distance to stop and may skid on quick turns. Do not use cruise control when driving under wet or icy conditions. Reduce your speed and drive with caution. What color are pavement markings that separate traffic lanes moving in opposite direction? A. Yellow. B. White. C. Yellow and white. D. Yellow, white, and black. A. Yellow. Yellow lines are used in the center of the road to separate lanes of traffic moving in opposite directions. This sign means A. Reserved parking for persons with disabilities. B. Slow-moving vehicle. C. No U-turn. A. Reserved parking for persons with disabilities. This sign indicates parking spaces that are reserved for vehicles displaying persons with disabilities license plates, disabled veteran license plates, and/or disabled parking placards. You have stopped for a train at a railroad crossing. After the train passes, you should A. Wait for signal lights to stop flashing. B. Look for a second train. C. Both of the above. C. Both of the above. Even after a train passes, watch out for a second train approaching on any track. Do not proceed until all gates have been lifted and all warning signals have stopped flashing. When driving on the highway, consistently looking far ahead of your vehicle. A. Helps you keep up with traffic. B. Reduces the need for last-minute braking or turning. C. Allows you to spot upcoming police officers. B. Reduces the need for last-minute braking or turning. To avoid the need for last-minute braking or turning, consistently watch the road far ahead of your vehicle. By looking ahead and being ready to stop or change lanes if needed, you can drive more safely, save fuel, and help keep traffic moving at a steady pace. A solid yellow line next to a broken yellow line means that vehicles A. Driving in both directions may pass. B. Next to the broken line may pass. C. Next to the solid line may pass. B. Next to the broken line may pass. Yellow lines separate lanes of traffic moving in opposite directions. A broken yellow line next to your driving lane means that you may pass. You are involved in a minor collision at an intersection. There are no injuries and there is very little vehicle damage. You should A. Leave your vehicle in the traffic lane until law enforcement arrives. B. Move your vehicle out of the traffic lane, if possible. C. Not move your vehicle for any reason. B. Move your vehicle out of the traffic lane, if possible. After a collision, if no one has been injured or killed and you can safely do so, you should move your vehicle out of the traffic lane. When driving in fog, you should A. Slow down and use your low beam headlights. B. Slow down and use your high beam headlights. C. Turn your lights on and off to warn other drivers. A. Slow down and use your low beam headlights. When driving in fog, you should slow down and use your low beam headlights. If the fog is so bad that you cannot see, pull off the road and wait for the fog to clear. If you plan to pass another vehicle, you should A. Not assume the other driver will make space for you to return to your lane. B. Assume the other driver will let you pass if you use your turn signal. C. Assume the other driver will maintain a constant speed. A. Not assume the other driver will make space for you to return to your lane. Even when you signal, you should not assume that the space you want to occupy is free or that other drivers will give you the right of way. If you experience a tire blowout, A. Take your foot off the gas. B. Do not immediately use your brakes. C. Gradually slow down and pull off the side of the road. D. All of the above. D. All of the above. If you experience a tire blowout, take your foot off the gas pedal and do not immediately apply the brakes. Gradually slow down before gently applying the brakes and pulling off the side of the road. This sign means A. Stop sign ahead. B. Side road. C. Railroad warning. A. Stop sign ahead. This sign indicates that a stop sign is ahead. If you miss your exit on an interstate expressway, A. Stop and make a U-turn. B. Get off at the next exit and come back to the exit you missed. C. Roll down your window and ask the driver next to you for help. D. Back up on the highway. B. Get off at the next exit and come back to the exit you missed. If you miss your turn or exit, do not back up or try to turn around on the highway. Go to the next exit and safely turn around. This sign means A. No right turn. B. You must turn right. C. Watch for traffic on your right. D. Don't park on the right side of the street. A. No right turn. A sign with a red circle and slash over a symbol indicates that the action represented by the symbol, in this example, a right turn, is not allowed. Anything that requires you to fill in the blank could cause you to crash. A. Take your eyes off the road. B. Take your hands off the wheel. C. Take your attention away from the task of driving. D. All of the above. D. All of the above. Anything that causes you to take your attention away from driving, take your eyes off the road, and/or take your hands off the wheel is a distraction. When should drivers yield the right of way to pedestrians in a crosswalk? A. Only if the pedestrians first wave to the driver. B. Only if the pedestrians are not texting while walking. C. At all times. C. At all times. Bring your vehicle to a complete stop at a crosswalk to yield the right of way to any vehicle or pedestrian already in the intersection. You may carefully proceed if your lane is completely clear. Extra space in front of a large truck is needed for A. Other drivers to merge onto the freeway. B. The truck driver to stop the vehicle. C. Other drivers when they want to slow down. B. The truck driver to stop the vehicle. Because they are larger, trucks take longer to stop than cars traveling at the same speed. Other drivers should not pull in front of a truck and then slow down or stop. Which of these statements is true about drinking alcohol and driving? A. If you can walk in a straight line after drinking, it is safe to drive. B. If you are under the legal blood alcohol concentration limit, your driving isn't impaired. C. Alcohol affects judgment, which is needed to drive safely. C. Alcohol affects judgment, which is needed to drive safely. Being under the influence of alcohol affects your judgment. Good judgment is necessary to react appropriately to things that you see or hear while on the road. Even if you are below the legal blood alcohol limit, consuming any amount of alcohol is likely to affect your ability to drive safely. You are involved in an accident and your vehicle is blocking traffic. You should A. Move your vehicle off the traveled portion of the roadway, if possible. B. Not move your vehicle under any circumstances. C. Wait until the police arrive before moving your vehicle. D. None of the above. A. Move your vehicle off the traveled portion of the roadway, if possible. After a minor collision, move your vehicle off the traveled portion of the roadway, if possible. Do not leave the scene of an accident without identifying yourself and rendering assistance. If worried, nervous, angry, or crying, a driver A. will drive no differently than they would if they were thinking more clearly. B. can drive faster because they are more in touch with their senses. C. Should take the time to focus on driving before starting the engine. D. Should call a friend to vent while driving. C. Should take the time to focus on driving before starting the engine. You may not be able to drive well if you are worried, excited, crying, angry, or depressed. Emotions can distract you from your driving because your mind is focused on something else. Take time to calm down and get focused before driving. Alcohol is A. a stimulant, B. an antihistamine, C. a depressant. C. a depressant. Alcohol is a depressant that dulls your judgment and makes your reflexes unreliable. To avoid hydroplaning while driving in rainy conditions, you should A. drive at a speed appropriate for ideal conditions. B. apply your brakes as soon as your car starts to skid. C. slow down. C. slow down. When driving too quickly in wet conditions, your tires may lose all contact with the road surface. Loss of traction will cause the vehicle to ride on top of the water, which is called hydroplaning. The best way to prevent this from happening is to drive more slowly in rainy or wet conditions than you would when driving during ideal weather conditions. Two solid white lines painted across a traffic lane show the boundaries of a crosswalk. As a driver, you should know that A. motor vehicles have the right-of-way over pedestrians in crosswalks. B. when pedestrians are in crosswalks, they should be given the right-of-way. C. no one has the right-of-way in a crosswalk. D. pedestrians are responsible to stay out of the way of all traffic. B. when pedestrians are in crosswalks, they should be given the right-of-way. Crosswalk lines show pedestrians where to safely cross a road or street. Crosswalks may be marked by horizontal lines, vertical lines, or a combination of the two. You must always stop for pedestrians who are in a crosswalk. What can you do to avoid the need to make emergency stops while driving in traffic? A. honk your horn to make others aware of your presence. B. look ahead and maintain a safe following distance. C. drive in the right lane only. D. drive more slowly than the flow of traffic. B. look ahead and maintain a safe following distance. Keeping a safe following distance will enable you to react to an upcoming problem without the need for an emergency stop, which could cause a driver behind you to crash into the back of your vehicle. When driving on wet pavement, it's important to remember A. that pavement is especially slippery right after it starts to rain. B. that wet roads can cause hydroplaning. C. to give yourself additional space when coming to a stop. D. all of the above. D. all of the above. Wet roadway surfaces can be dangerously slick, especially immediately following a rainfall. When you are driving on wet roads, your vehicle is traveling on a thin layer of oil, dirt, and water. Slow down when there is heavy rain, standing water, or slush on the road to reduce the risk of your wheels losing traction on the slick surface. The driver ahead of you stops at a crosswalk. What should you do? A. cautiously pass the vehicle at 10 miles per hour or slower. B. stop, proceeding only when all the pedestrians have crossed. C. change lanes, look carefully, and pass the stopped vehicle. B. stop, proceeding only when all the pedestrians have crossed. You must not pass a vehicle that is stopped at a crosswalk. There may be pedestrians crossing the street that you cannot see. Instead, stop, proceeding only after all pedestrians have crossed. When driving at night, you should A. Always use your high beams. B. Look directly at the headlights of an oncoming vehicle. C. Increase your following distance. C. Increase your following distance. Increase your following distance when it is difficult to see due to darkness. Use headlights to increase visibility, following the rules for proper use of high beams and low beams. Avoid looking directly at the headlights of an oncoming vehicle to avoid being blinded by the glare. A solid white line down the center of a two-lane road indicates A. Lanes are moving in opposite directions and drivers are not permitted to pass. B. Lanes are moving in opposite directions and drivers are permitted to pass when it is safe to do so. C. Lanes are moving in the same direction and drivers are not permitted to pass. D. Lanes are moving in the same direction and drivers are permitted to pass when it is safe to do so. C. Lanes are moving in the same direction and drivers are not permitted to pass. White lines are used to separate traffic moving in the same direction. Solid lines indicate that drivers are not permitted to pass. An arrow painted on the pavement means A. Drivers in the proper lane may make the movement indicated by the arrow, if they choose to do so. B. Drivers in the proper lane must make the movement indicated by the arrow, but only if traffic lights are not working. C. Drivers in the proper lane must always come to a complete stop before making the movement indicated by the arrow. D. Drivers in the proper lane must make the movement indicated by the arrow while following directions indicated by traffic signals. D. Drivers in the proper lane must make the movement indicated by the arrow while following directions indicated by traffic signals. An arrow painted on the pavement within a traffic lane indicates that drivers in the lane must make the movement indicated by the arrow. Drivers should follow directions given by any traffic signs or signals before proceeding in the direction indicated by the arrow. Before switching on the ignition, you should A. Buckle your safety belt. B. Be sure all passengers have buckled their safety belts. C. Both of the above. C. Both of the above. Develop a routine for entering and leaving your car. Before switching on the ignition, buckle your safety belt and see that all passengers do likewise. Double solid yellow line markings down the center of a road indicate that passing is A. Allowed from both directions. B. Allowed only from your direction of travel. C. Not allowed from either direction. C. Not allowed from either direction. A double yellow centerline means that it is prohibited for traffic from either direction to cross the centerline to pass.